I would like to officially apologize to anyone who believed my April 1st prank. I was peer pressured into doing it by Kyle and Pencil. They basically had me at gunpoint. Um, they basically said, you better do this prank on us. Emotionally more. Yeah, they said, please, can you do it? And that's what it felt like. You know, being a people pleaser, it felt like they might as well have had a gun to my head. And and I did the prank, and then I don't know why you guys believed me. And I was telling the others, it just shows my character that you guys believed me when I said I got into a random fight with a MAGA person. Like, it says so much about me. But no, I didn't actually get into a fight with anybody. And all my teeth did not get knocked out of my head. Um, you mean I've been hunting ducks all week for nothing? Honestly, I don't even know where the ducks came in. I don't know how the ducks were factored into it. I don't know. But you can thank Pencil and Kyle for that. And honestly, I laughed my ass off while Kyle and Pencil were doing their narration because it was so hilarious and disjointed and random, and I loved every minute. Because I was like, I don't want them to make sense. I want them to be completely ridiculous, you know? Like I had this vision for how they were going to speak, and they did it exactly as I envisioned, which was like it's just this hilarious random statements, you know, sprinkled with a little bit of art education. It was just glorious. It was wonderful. Thank you so much, Pencil and Kyle. You guys were hilarious. But I am sorry. I am sorry, though. I know I'm laughing, but I'd like to do one of those YouTuber public apology videos where I sniffle a little bit. I'm sorry. That's not who I want to be. That's not who I imagine myself being. I did not want to become this person, and I promise to do better. Okay, well, my tablet isn't turned on, so let me turn it on. I missed you guys. I missed this version of me that does Critique Hour. I hate skipping Critique Hour. It always feels like ages since I did one if I skip just one. I don't know why that effect happens, but it just shows that Critique Hour is part of my blood now. But today I wanted to talk about this piece. I didn't get to talk about it last time, and I just wanted to flesh it out. I just wanted to just paint it and see what else I could do with it in that time, and talk about what it needs. I understand this is traditional. I understand that this is a watercolor painting, but yeah, I wanted to talk about it and basically talk about all the things that are missing and all the things that could have been done. And I want to keep as close as possible to the original artist's idea. Keep as close as possible. Oh, the ukulele. How can I do an apology video without a ukulele? Of course. I did do a critique, but it was really quick, and I wanted to flesh it out a little bit more. I also ate way too fast before critique hour. Like I ate like 2 bowls of food. So I'm sorry if I seem a bit out of breath. I ate that way where like you're done and you're just like your heart rate went up. That's how fast I ate. So just give me a minute to come down. Okay. All right. So I think it's obvious, based especially off the last critique I did of this, where I stated that your edges are non-existent. So let's bring in a piece that I critiqued. I believe I critiqued this piece. No, I did not. I think this is just a critique, a 14-day challenge I never critiqued. Oh, I did critique this piece. Oh, I did. Okay. So what you're doing here is what you would have been doing had you done this. So let me duplicate the layer. Let me keep you guys close. So basically what I'm going to do to this is I'm going to get rid of all the edges. Edges are changing planes or overlapping planes, right? That back. That means that if you got a paper, a flat piece of paper, right? The one that you put in the printer and you folded it, that space in between that fold, that's an edge. And so now you have two pieces of the paper, two halves of the paper, looking in different directions. The paper is now two pieces of paper that have been connected with an edge, right? So what you did is you curved out that edge. And sometimes there are on the faces edges that look like that. There are a lot of edges on the face, and what you did is you like got rid of them. And so when you get rid of the edges, you have nothing. We didn't get rid of the contrast. Look. We didn't change the values. I didn't change anything else. All I'm getting rid of is the internal edges. Usually artists use lines instead of edges. And so they fix this lack of edge knowledge with lines. And that's another whole problem in and of itself. But when you don't have edges, you've got nothing. Okay? And so that's where you are right now. You don't have the paper fold. You don't have the overlap. Take that same piece of paper and look at the background while holding it in front of you. The edge of that paper doesn't blend with the background, does it? I actually do want an answer to this question. Does the piece of paper blend with the background? Does your phone blend with the background behind it while you're watching this or your computer or your TV or wherever you're watching this stream from? Does your hand blend with the background? No, it does not. That's an overlap edge. So if the paper fold is not blending and your hand isn't blending with the background, those are the two fundamental edges of painting: overlap and the fold. I call it the paper fold. So when you don't have either of these, you've got nothing. All right. And when you don't have either of these and you've got nothing, your brain panics and uses what it did have, this evil relationship it had with the line. It's not evil, but it can be very evil because it's very reliant. It's like a toxic relationship. You're relying way too much, and it's not an equal relationship, and they don't treat you the way you treat them. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the relationship y'all have with lines sometimes. And so the line issue comes from this kind of edge insecurity, where you just don't have edges. You're going to rely on the next best thing. So you don't have edges, and you're just going to be like, I think I'll just throw in a couple lines where I am sure there would be an edge, but I don't know that yet because you don't know what you don't know. And so you haven't practiced edges and done enough master studies or form studies. And so you're going to replace all these missing edges with lines. And a lot of you have semi-realism that looks like this. And you guys just line your way around what you don't know. But this is wrong. This is what you should have, edges. But this artist has a little bit of lines, but that's okay. You're only allowed a little bit. So we come back to this. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? So the issue here is a question of planes. So the face isn't 100% sharp edges everywhere. The face is started like that. We start with a blocking brush that is sharp and 100% edges everywhere. So we do apply an abundant amount of edges by creating a separation between the planes of the face. So the nostril holes are edges on top of the face. Okay. The nostril edges are paper folds. So the edge of the nostril wing. Nostril hole and nostril wing are two completely different things, all right? And then you've got the lips, and then you've got the light direction. You need to know where the light is coming from in order to have a believable edge system that works in your painting. And so I'm just going to try to create these sharp edges. So that's what I'm doing. That's all I'm doing today is I'm reintroducing the edges back that this artist neglected. Not intentionally, not maliciously, obviously. You need to know what you don't know in order to know that you didn't know it. You need to have the knowledge enough to know what you don't know before you start pursuing it. So it's like the first step in learning something is to recognize, hey, I don't know this. That takes a whole set of knowledge just on its own, just being able to do that. Luckily, like in this video, you can learn that right away. But All right, so what I'm doing here is I am building those edges so that we can get a clear picture. But we're going to give too many edges. We're going to over provide edges. There's an edge for the lower eyelid, one clean flat surface. Okay, both eyelids get it. It's not going to be that dark, so I'm going to like bring down that value. And then there's going to be the edge of the eyebrow. Again, make it as sharp as possible. Write this back to me. Start sharp, blend later. Because if you start sharp, you can blend away what you don't need. You're left with just the right amount that you need. But if you start blurry, you're still not really doing the work. You've got more work left later for you to do. So always over sharpen the edges, start sharp, blend later. Okay? Start sharp, blend later. So right now, the eyebrows don't need to be this sharp. I'm just going to give way more sharpness than I need. And what that does is that at the end, all I got to do is blend away a couple of curved edges here and there for the cheeks, chin, forehead, nose, and the painting is practically done, or more finished than it would have been had I just been blending as I went along or used a soft brush, because sometimes you guys overuse the soft brush. And so I'm just creating edges everywhere. You are allowed some line formations, not actual lines, but they're systems in the shape of a line or in the form of a line on the face, which is like the lash line, the water line, the crease. These are things set up in a line way. That's why they're such easy traps for a line. But right now, I'm just using the values you already have, using the character you already had in there, and I'm just fleshing it out. Okay, and so I established that this is as dark as I'm going to go for the eyelids. Usually the eyelids are as dark as you go, not eyelids, lash line, iris, that stuff. Those are the 6 dark spots. Okay, and there's always a little tiny shadow under the septum. This droopy part of the nose is called the septum. Okay, and there's another one under that nostril and this nostril because it casts a shadow. And I know that the shadow of this face is going this way. So now that I have a good idea of what's happening with the nose, I'm just going to extend that shadow. Oops, I'm going to extend that shadow that way. So for the lips, the upper part of the lip gets some light because it sticks out, right? Like it sticks out a little bit, like you're always smooching just a little bit, like doing a smoochy mouth just a little. Your mouth isn't just like flat, you know, like it's got a little bit of a snout like shape to it. And so it's going to catch a lot of light. And so every face has that snout like protrusion of the upper lip. Okay. And then what we're going to do is, I think this is the edge of the face and the ear. That is way too early for the ear to be showing. You need to show a little bit more of the cheekbone, especially on like a Nubian face like this. And I'm going to show some cheekbone. And I'm going to show the triangle of the other side of the cheekbone because of the shadow of the nose. Okay, we're getting some definition now. And I'm going to add a little bit of brightness on the side of the forehead. So if my brush gets bigger, I zoom out. Write that back to me. As soon as your brush gets bigger, you zoom out. Because if it gets smaller, you zoom in. Sometimes if it gets smaller, you don't zoom in either because you want to control the detail. And then you zoom in after to clean up. But be very, very careful of zooming in too early. Because you don't know the impact of your brush stroke from that zoomed in. You got to zoom out. You got to get on the airplane and fly around to know where you are in the map. All right, and then what I'm going to do is zoom back in and start thinking about the lip. And so there's 6 dark spots. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we need 2 for the edge of the lips. And I think her mouth is like a little bit open, like that natural shape. And I'm going to add a shadow under the lower lip as well. I want these shadows to be saturated, so I'm just going to push them over into blue and into the saturated side of the spectrum. I don't want them to just be gray, because she seems like she's green. I think this is a character from some kind of story or show. And then I'm just darkening the eyebrows a little bit more. And I think these are enough edges. We're seeing a nice amount of edges here. And then the upper lip gets to be a little bit darker. So the lips you've drawn are too bright. Lips are usually darker than the surrounding skin. Sometimes they're lighter. It's patchy. It can change. But in this case, I'm not going to make them pale like that. I'm going to give them that shape. And then now for another really, really important edge, which is the edge of the chin on the neck. Really, really important edge. So I'm going to use darken. Actually, I'm going to get that same saturated blue-green. And I'm going to throw that over. And then I'm going to get that black value for the hair. And then try to make the hair feel... I don't know this character, so I don't know the type of hair she has, but I'm going to try to give the hair some structure. And then you've got the edge of the face. Okay, and we're just finding more of these edges. And then continuing that shadow of the neckline, and then finding the shape of the neck. All right, and the shadow is coming and the light is coming in from an angle, so that means like all of these shadows are at an angle. Always remember to think back to the nature of the light source. Don't ignore the light source. Okay. So we're just giving this hair some structure. Using my large blocking brush. This is the same blocking brush that I've always used, and it's on my website if you guys want this. And it does work on Clip Studio and Procreate. Okay, so now that we're done that, I'm going to go in and add some detail. So I'm going to add in the pupils and the iris and the specular highlight. So the reason you may have had a rough time identifying these edges while you were painting with watercolor is because you didn't sketch them out, and if you did, you painted them away. You don't remember them. They're not important to you. They're not in your mind. So that's why you didn't be careful while painting around these areas. There should be like a little alert that comes up in your mind while you're painting. You know, like it just comes up like that when you enter these edge areas. There should be a little alert. Do you guys have that when you paint? Is there a little alert that pops up in your brain? I'm still just a little bit sick, yeah. Just because of all of the construction I've been doing in the cold, but I'm much better. Sorry about my coughs. They're really loud, I know. But while you paint, this little alert should come up. Like you should sense like a bit of danger, like your spidey senses are tingling and you're noticing, hey, I'm entering a zone of importance. I'm entering a positive space, not negative space. I'm entering space where I know there is activity here, so I'm going to be extra careful, especially when using traditional media, because traditional media is very unforgiving. It's not like, you know, digital, you could just delete away what you're doing. When you paint over something in traditional, it's a very rough time getting rid of it, or you have to use another type of media altogether to paint over it. So being very careful when you enter these zones of detail or edge zones here will really, really help you. And so once you painted those areas away with a big splotch of black, you know, there was no coming back from that. Because once you go black, Couldn't help myself. I'm sorry. And then I'm just going to add a little bit. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I will get better. I've just been in too much cold. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Don't forget, I'm crazy a little bit. You know, I may be your art teacher, but it takes a certain degree of madness to do this. You guys have to be forgiving of some of my madness. It'll come through. So there's a little bit of shadow under the nose right here. Let me show you. Look at the difference that shadow added. Nope, not that shadow. This one. Right? It's a pretty big difference. And just take a look before. Yeah. And the reason why it's important is because the nose sticks out and casts the shadow, this very shadow that you have here. And so you've learned a lot because of my madness. Good. Good. Then it's been of use. And then I'm just going to soften these shadows a little bit. I don't want them this rough. So we have some choices. Actually, I'm going to let you guys decide. Do you guys want me to smoothen away this face, or do you want me to keep that general rough texture of the watercolor? I feel like we should keep the texture, but what do you guys think? Do you guys want to see how to blend? I will blend, but not with the smudge brush too much. I'm going to use the smudge brush very little. What do you guys want? And I'm just building up the highlight of the chin sideways. So you see how it's piling up to the side. Keep the watercolor. Hi, Benny. I didn't say hi. Yeah, watercolor needs to go from light to dark. Otherwise, it's game over. There are ways to go about it, but you know, it's not as easy. Texture for sure. Okay, so there's two ways to blend. There's the way I usually blend with the paint overs I do. You guys have seen those, the 14-day challenge paint overs, these ones. I get my smudge brush and I blend away, excuse me. One moment, please. I blend away with the smudge brush, I'm alive, until it's really super smooth. So it would look too smooth for this because you can see how I'll use a little bit, but it looks too smooth for the watercolor texture. So there's another way to do this. So there's this way, right? Okay, so there's this way, which is too smooth for our current uses, right? It's too smooth, it doesn't really match. There's this way where you get the blocking brush and you get whatever brush you're using. It doesn't have to be, but to keep the texture, this is sometimes something I do when I paint portraits to keep the texture. I select the value in between. There's always just a little one, and I make sure my brushes do have transfer. So the lighter you press, the less paint you get. The harder you press, the more paint you get. And I just paint over, and I get this middle value, and then I select that, and I get this middle value, and I select that, and then I just keep going back and forth, and what I'm left with is a very nice grain. And that's blended. Do you see that? So you just keep selecting the value that overlap, the resulting value. Did I go too fast? Apple cider vinegar. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So this is the texture. This is how I'm going to blend now, but I will blend. You know, blending is not an option. You do have to blend, but you can change the way you blend based off the desired look. So let me Control Z all this stuff here. Okay. So we have all of this definition now, right? And so what I'm doing is I'm blending in this way. It's a little slower than the smudge brush blending, but it's the way we can keep that textured painterly look. It's not quite similar to traditional. It looks very traditional, but it's not traditional because in traditional you can't really select a color. The one that is closest to traditional is the smudge brush, because that you can actually do in traditional, which is you can, or real life, you can move around the paint once it's on the surface, but you can't select it out of the three-dimensional space-time continuum and drop tool and then create you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm just gonna shut up. So I'm just going to grab a bunch of values and start mixing around the eyebrow. Just overlapping transparent brushstrokes to create a blended look. Okay, and then just a little bit of extra brightness under here. I'm going to use like a bright neon green for the waterline, just because it's like equivalent to the pink that we see in a waterline, but because she's an alien, she gets a green one. And I'm not using a smudge brush, I'm just selecting the value and blending. Layering transparent or translucent brushstrokes, sorry, on top of each other. Because I'm used to working fast, I'll grab the smudge brush most of the time. And that's it. So that's what you were missing in your work. That is what you were not doing. You were not defining the edges. You were blending more than you were structuring. You're missing the architecture. You're missing the structure of the face. The face is not an amalgamation of I know it's organic, but it's not like a blob of pretty things combined together and lashes and lash glue. A face is a building first. It's a structure. It had to become structurally possible in the way that gravity pulls down on us, and the way we need to stand upright, and the way weight is distributed across our evolutionary history, the way that the face evolved, the way that structure of the skull evolved. There's a lot of architecture. Mother Nature does not hate architecture. She has her own way of doing it, and there is a way that you have to study before you can start adding all of the blob elements of a human, which is the skin and the fat and the muscles. And even the muscles have a bit of that architecture, but the bone structure is very shapely, very architectural. And you have to learn it. You can't skip it. You can't say, I'm going to feel my way through the face, and it will, you know, by some divine course, eventually look like a face, because that's what all the painterly videos on YouTube look like. And well, that's just naturally. No, those artists have a lot of years of structural study behind them before they painted a face that effortlessly on a time-lapse video on YouTube. Okay, education does not look like the performance. Education is long and arduous, but it can be easy if you put down that sense of, for lack of a better term, entitlement, and start studying the structure. Don't be under the illusion that, oh, I'm past the level of studying the basic shapes. No one is past studying the basic shapes. Nobody. Everybody has to study them. I, from time to time, have to stop and study a cube again, because I will forget it. Everyone forgets. We are forgetful. We are all forgetful. And we sometimes, it's not always going to be instinctive knowledge. Sometimes we forget the most basic fundamentals because we're too busy managing all of the other fundamentals. And so I really think you guys are missing out when you're not studying basic cubes, basic cylinders, pyramids, spheres, and an open light source, because the face is just a combination of all of those elements. So I think her eyes were gray before, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm just going to make this waterline a little more realistic, kind of just blend it with that lash line and try to give that painterly look back to the eyes. And then bring in a really super dark, bluish dark value here. Can't forget what you've never learned, big smooth brain. I still fight my new brain impulse to paint falsies. It's good to add them at the end, but only at the end. Once you know you've exhausted all the structure of the eye, you can add the falsies. You can add all that decorative stuff, but not over add it, because, well, you have a great plate of realism already working for you. You don't have to rely on all that fancy decorative stuff. You already have, it's not even fancy, it's actually kind of cheesy to add overly sized, beauty enhancing things and makeup elements. And so right now, all I'm trying to do is build this structure around the face, oops, and enhance the detail. And for the lips, I'm just going to use that bluish green again and give the lips some shape as well. So you can see I painted and blended only with my blocker. I did not use the blending brush, which might make us leave the essence of the watercolor feel. But you guys can see that there's a very, very separate set of stages, a very important but separate set of stages while painting, and that the blocking is very separate. It helps you identify the edges, and the blending cannot happen while the blocking is happening. Write that back to me. Okay, it's like what's the equivalent of that? It's like doing two completely antithetical steps at the same time, but in cooking. What would that look like? If you guys can comment, that would be really great, because the more metaphors I have, the more educational impact. So help me out here. What's the equivalent of that in like cooking? Doing two things that cannot be done at the same time. Oh, like you can't cool a cake and cook it at the same time, right? You have to cook the cake and then you can cool it. Right? Mixing and baking can't happen exactly. There you go. You can't chop an onion, but also stuff it, right? No, that was a bad one. Anyway, the blending cannot happen during the blocking. They're two opposite things. One is a smoother, the other is a structural builder. You can't turn the microwave on without any food in it. Oh, that was a good one. Yeah. What else? So I'm using a little bit of that green in the lips so that we can combine these values together. And I'll give you guys some quick tips on how to make your paintings look even more realistic in a second. So the painting looks good, but something is off, and that's the edge of the face. The edge of the face, I want to reduce the opacity of my brush, and I'm going to like gradually drop the brush along the edge, because this is the edge of the face that doesn't face the light, right? So look at what these brush strokes just did. See how unnatural that edge of the face looked? And look how natural it looks with the shadow decrease. So this is a forgotten trick. But Istebrak, bounce light, you can add it after. You can add a little line of bounce light after. But won't that defeat the purpose? No, because we're still on average much darker. Look at this. This is the bounce light value right here. Look at that. We're still on average much darker than anything that is not in that Terminator. Oops, got rid of the Terminator for a second. And I'm just blending with my opacity and my transfer. I'm blending that bounce light and zooming out, and I'm going to do the same thing for the chin. But over here, I'm going to keep the edge nice and sharp because the light feeds sharpness. Write that back to me. Light can feed sharpness. Light makes things sharper, more clear, more high resolution. And so wherever we have light, we want to add more sharpness of edge. Wherever we have shadow, we add softness of edge, which is why this shadow here, we could get away with that, not being a little more hazy, not being super sharp. Let me do the same thing, lower your opacity to keep that texture going, but it's the same concept. We shrink our brush as we pile up the paint. And we will eventually get this really nice recession, depression look that happens gradually along the dark side of the face. Really, really cool trick. Elevates your paintings into a professional look. And I'll show you what all that really did. I mean, the face was done before all of this. I haven't done anything to the face. This is all head related changes. So see how sharp it was before. So let me get to the point where, okay, so like see how sharp it was, and now it's just more of a three-dimensional look. You know what, I'm even tempted to select it and go to before I did all that. Okay, so you see that look? This is how you get your paintings to look more advanced. It's these hidden little tricks that make things just pop, that just make it look very professional. These are the forgotten fundamentals. And I'm just blending out the edge of the lip a little bit more. And that's a YouTube short right there, that change alone. Yeah, churning out shorts got to be very, very exhausting for me. It just felt like a cog in the wheel. It got to be very, very insane. I know it, like there's so much more exposure that I could get from my channel making them, and I did. I went up 1,000 subscribers from just Instagram alone in 1 month, and that was really cool to see that kind of movement in my channel. But it got very exhausting trying to appeal to the algorithm and all of that. So I just accepted that this is how I'm happiest teaching. I shouldn't be on the computer, you know, making shorts all the time. But maybe I'll get back into making them eventually, or try to find a faster way of making them. Don't overframe your paintings. Sometimes just having a simple green background looks a lot better than having a circular little thing going on there. But if you want to keep that, that's all up to you. I don't want to eclipse your creativity too much. And then what I'm going to do is get pure black, pure black. And I'm going to use it on the darkest areas of the face. And this is in watercolor, you do this last. You don't even look at this much black early in the process. The darkest little pocket, all right? And that goes there. And if you ever had a question like, okay, where do I put the blackest black? Okay, so if you were a hamster and you were exploring the face, where would you hide, right? You have to think about it like that. If you were a bat and you really didn't like the light, if you were a vampire, where would you hide to escape the most amount of light, right? You wouldn't hide on the side of the nose, so that's not where we'd use the most black. You would hide in the pocket of her neck, or in her mouth, or in her nostrils. There's no light in there. A vampire would hide inside nostrils, all right? Maybe not in the eyes, but if you poke the eyes out, you can go in there. Not in the lashes, but if you were small enough, you could probably hide under the canopy of the lashes. If you're small enough of a vampire, you can hide in between the hair. Do you see where I'm going with this? If you don't know where to use pure black on the face, imagine you're a vampire and the light just got turned on. Where would you hide to escape that light? Masterful educating right here. I'm a scholar. They will talk about me for throughout the ages of my metaphors. And I'm just using the blackest black on the part of the hair that's rotated away from the light the most. I'm ginger enough to know the answer and think, oh, because you get sunburnt? So you're just a vampire. All right, and then I'm just trying to make this neck look a little bit less elongated. And I think you had some kind of flower thing here. So what were some of the fundamentals I covered today? Can anybody recap them for me? And by the way, I have been honoring my offer. If you guys want this brush for free, all you got to do is DM me on Discord. If you want to join my Discord, I'll show you how at the end of the stream. But if you want my brushes for free, and you have your pick, of brush set. I will give it to you if you write good notes. If you send in those notes, send in your correction. This particular artist, if you send in notes for the critique hour today, and you are interested in digital tools, I'll give you mine. Schnoz. I'd hide in the schnoz. If it's big enough, then yes, it's a schnoz. Structure, architecture versus blending. Excellent. Okay, and then the white of the eye is a little too white, but I'm trying to work with you in that your media is watercolor, right? So I know you have white, but you can make it into a little bit of a gray. Never use pure white. And then one thing I will do now that I have the time is just make the eyes a little bit more interesting. Maybe give them some color. Just use the time I have left to render the eyes a bit. Use a deeper black for the lash line. Create a little wing on the outside. Yes, this is the only piece I'm covering today, since I don't have that much time and I was covering quite an extensive subject. Was there something you wanted me to cover? Are you requesting I critique yours? Because if you do have one that you want to request, all you got to do is submit it to my subreddit, and I'll show you guys how to do that at the end of the stream. But yes, I critique all manner of art. Even if you guys want to submit your furry art, I'll critique that as well. Anime, I'll critique that. Anything that I have to offer, I'll try to apply it. No NSFW stuff though, because then I get in trouble. I'm already in trouble with the big man. All right, and so I'm just I'm a newbie artist, more interested in learning. Oh, okay. Vampire hiding in the nose. What's a schnoz? Seems close to swear word in German. Schnoz is a nose. That's how we say nose here. Well, how some people say nose here. All right, and I'm just gonna get color, and I'm just gonna use that green on the eyes just to complete the motif. I like the gray, but I feel like it's adding something to add the green. A little bit of green on the white of the eyes as well. And I'm gonna also just steal a yellow really quickly and just use it on the inside part of the iris. Oh, pupil, sorry. And just add a little bit of yellow in there. Doesn't that look nice? They're such neighbors as colors, right? So it would look nice together. And then use pure white on the specular highlights. Usually, sometimes you can use a wax that you peel away later on your watercolor to create a white, or just straight up get some gouache or a white charcoal pencil and make it happen. I'm going to get a blue white and use that on all of the highlights. That's going to give us an extra little dimension of value. That's going to create like a dimensional color. Usually you use yellow, right, on a highlight, but in this case, using blue just adds a little bit of an interesting twist, especially that she's green, a green creature or humanoid. I don't know if you even intended green. I don't know if it's scanned green. I really don't know, because it looks very green from the start of the painting process. And I'm going to use a little bit of that blue-green on the lips, just here under the dark of the lip corners. Always just a little bit of drool. We all have it, and it catches the light just a little bit. Like the engine of a car, the hydration and the oil and the water and the tears are all ways that the face is as a mechanism is lubricated. So if you guys forget to add these water elements or wetness elements to the faces you draw will always look dry, kind of sick and sickly. And so adding these little pockets of dewiness everywhere will just add that lively look to your drawings. Oops. And though I didn't really check for symmetry today, I think the point has been made very clear, and I'll show you guys the before and after now. This is the power of edges. This is the power of understanding the structure of the face and the fact that the face is a series of shapes you have to learn. You can't ignore this part. This is a very important part to study. You can't just be blending. Oh, I'm blending, so that means I'm an artist. No, that's not how it works. Oh, I practiced my blending all night last night. Have I leveled up? Nope. If you practiced your shapes all night, oh, well, you have leveled up. But blending ain't squat. It's easy. Anybody can blend. You can do it. They can do it. A non-artist can do it. Blending is just standing there moving your hand. It's easy. You can do it. But structure, the theory, the edges, the shapes, that takes a lot more brain power. It's not impossible, but it takes a lot more than just standing there wiggling your hand. Okay, so blending isn't what makes you an artist. Picking colors isn't what, I mean, now I'm really getting into it. So people are going to start yelling at me. But you could be an artist, whatever you want. I mean, yeah, you could make art out of anything. But what I mean is that it's not going to make you an illustrator. There we go. That's a better word for it. Knowing the structure and knowing the elements of three-dimensional, the science, the physical science of three-dimensional light on form, that's what will make you an illustrator. Learn those first. Then you can pick the colors, and then you can pick your mood board, and then you can pick your inspiration, and then you can have all the creative fun and pick the outfits and create your original characters. And then it'll just be, you know, you're doing it. You're doing the thing. But you need structure first, okay? So, I'm just going to give this cheekbone a little bit more structure as well. The face is a little bit lopsided, but that's okay. And again, I didn't use the blending brush even once, even though I kept reaching for it, but I stopped myself. This is a very fun way to blend with the overlap brush. All art is accepted here, yes. I once did a furry critique. You guys have seen it. It was the purple dog, I think. Istebrak's a furry, confirmed. And I'm just adding a little bit of shadow on the bottom of the neck. I've got time. And all right, so let's take a look at the before and after. Everybody ready? So the before and after, I do it to show you guys the difference the paint over made, but also the difference in theory, and the difference that fundamental creates. So give me a second because it's a different size because I resized it. Okay, so before, very, very hard to see. It's like we're seeing her underwater. And that's because you didn't prioritize your edges. Obviously, I took creative liberty and did my own thing with it because there was nothing for me to reference. I had to build my own stuff. Let me just smoothen this out. I forgot to smoothen it out. But that's how you can get your work looking a little bit more defined. You have to learn the edges. Where are the edges of the face? Where do they exist? There's the nose. Like, list out some edges for me real quick, guys. There's the nose, not the nostrils against the face. There is the eyelid crease. There is the edge of the lips. There is the chin against the neck. There is the cheekbone against the hair. There is the head against the background. There are so many edges, and you have them all really, really wonky. Just like I showed you guys here, you blended away all of your edges. And that's what happens when you do that and you don't have an awareness of the structure. Right? So many different ones, and you need to have them. So you can get here, I promise. And I understand mine looks a little bit different, even in style. But I hope that you learned something from today's critique hour. Before, after, before, after. Edges are literally what you're doing. It's all you have left as an artist. So this piece was brought in from my subreddit. My subreddit is where you can submit your work for critique. So you just go to istebrak.com. Here you can find all the links. The Discord, if you want to submit your notes, especially if you're the artist of today, you can take notes and hand them in, and I'll reward you. And then the subreddit icon right here, click on that. That'll take you to my subreddit where you can submit your work for critique. You can also participate in the community challenge that is due at the end of this month. That is going to be really, really fun. You have 2 weeks to do it. It's a book cover challenge, and the winner wins everything, even 2 hours of sessions with me. At the moment, my booking list is very long, and you're right at the top of the list. You are bumped up to the top if you win this challenge. It's not about who drew the best drawing. Remember, the winner of this contest is not the most skilled artist. It's the artist that gave it their all. And we can see that you gave it your all when you show your references, when you show that you had thumbnails, when you get critiques, when you post regularly. And if not enough people participate, I will extend the due date. I have a feeling that this is going to be a very slow contest for some reason. I don't know. I feel like you guys are kind of, preoccupied with other stuff. Maybe I'll push the deadline. But if there are a significant amount, I'll do 2 different critique hour days for it. But at the moment, I think I'm just going to be using one of them. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching today. If you guys want to buy my brushes that you saw me use, you can do that on my website. I have a masterclass. If I went a little too fast today for you guys and I went over the fundamentals, I have a 2-hour, 2.5-hour, or 3-hour, I forget, masterclass, very, very long class. And it's not that expensive. It is a little on a small sale price. It's not full price, but it does go much lower in the summer, down to $40. But right now it's a very, very, very highly dense masterclass by a portrait professional like myself, and I list out everything, every last brush stroke, every last edge, every last thing you need to know about painting a portrait. And the before and after I did today is all in my masterclass. So if you guys want to grab that, you can. It's on my store on Gumroad. I also have Portrait Studio and my brush sets all on my website. Thank you guys for watching today. I really appreciate you guys coming to the stream. I'll see you guys on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Bye, guys.